What's going on, my friend? It's Adam with Faith Labs. We do daily devotionals for busy Christians. Today's is titled, The Day Jesus Killed a Fig Tree for Not Having Fruit. It's an interesting one. Let's get into it. A tree is dying from the inside out. Yesterday it was green and healthy. Today its leaves are brittle as ancient paper. Its branches, they snap like bones, and its roots are poison. 24 hours ago, this tree was alive and thriving. Now it's a monument to divine rage. And the person who murdered it, the same guy who said, "Consider the lilies." This is the only time in the Gospels where Jesus used his power to destroy instead of to heal. The only miracle designed to kill rather than give life. All because a tree didn't have breakfast ready. I grew up thinking that Jesus was all about restoration, right? Water into wine, sight to the blind, life to the dead, the ultimate fixer of broken things. But then I read Mark chapter 11, and suddenly I'm staring at Jesus the destroyer, Jesus the judge, Jesus who looks at something fruitless and says, "You're done." You ever meet someone who looks like they have it all together? They're Instagram perfect, they're LinkedIn successful, everything curated and polished. But when you get close enough to really need them, there's nothing there, just leaves and promises with no substance. I was looking at the week before Jesus died, because that week, it's absolute chaos. When I hit this exact story, and it made me actually uncomfortable, like put the Bible down and pace around the office for a few minutes, uncomfortable. Because Jesus getting angry at money changers, that tracks. Jesus calling out the Pharisees and calling them hypocrites, that totally makes sense. But Jesus literally killing a tree for the crime of being a tree? Something else has to be happening here. Something that would explain why the Prince of Peace committed botanical murder. Monday morning, Jesus and the disciples are walking from Bethany to Jerusalem. It's Passover week. The city is packed with pilgrims, and Jesus, get this, Jesus is hungry. The Son of God who multiplied loaves and fishes, who turned water into wine, who could literally speak food into existence, is walking around with his stomach growling. And then he spots a fig tree in the distance. Mark makes a point to mention it's covered in leaves, full foliage, lush and green. In fig tree language, leaves means figs, right? They grow together. So if you see leaves, then you should find fruit. Jesus walks over expecting breakfast, and he searches through the leaves and finds nothing, not a single fig. And here's where Mark drops a bomb that most people miss. It was not the season for figs. Wait, what? Jesus is looking for figs when figs aren't supposed to exist? He's expecting fruit out of season. And when he doesn't find any, he doesn't shrug and move on. He opens his mouth and speaks death. Quote, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again," end quote. And then that's it. No lightning bolt, no immediate withering, just words that will prove more destructive than any storm ever could. The disciples, they hear this and they probably exchange some glances towards each other. Did their teacher just curse a tree for not having figs in April, when figs don't ripen until June? But here's where the story gets quantum level weird, if you will. The tree cursing, it happens on a Monday morning. You know what happens Monday afternoon? Jesus storms into the temple, and that's when he starts flipping over tables. Same day, same anger. And Mark, who's usually the most concise gospel writer, splits the temple cleansing story in half just to wrap it around the fig tree incident. Monday morning, curses the tree. Monday afternoon, cleanses the temple. Tuesday morning, they pass the tree again. Peter stops dead in his tracks. "Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed has withered from its roots." Not just dead, not dying, but withered from the very roots themselves. Like something sucked every drop of life out overnight. Like the words of Jesus were spiritual herbicide that killed it at the cellular level. The other disciples are probably thinking what I'm thinking. This feels like overkill. It's a tree. It isn't supposed to have fruit. Not in this season anyway. Why the death sentence? But Jesus, he doesn't apologize. He doesn't explain. Instead, he launches into teaching about faith and moving mountains. Like cursing trees to death is just a Tuesday for the Son of God. And this is, of course, where we've got to dig deeper, because either Jesus had the worst case of hangries in history, or this tree must have represented something that deserved to die. See, in the Old Testament, Israel is constantly compared to a fig tree. Hosea, Jeremiah, Micah, they all use the same metaphor. God planted Israel like a fig tree, expecting fruit. Instead, he found leaves. Appearance without substance, religion without relationship. And where was this fig tree growing? On the road between Bethany and Jerusalem, between the place Jesus found refuge and the temple that had become a den of robbers. This tree, covered in leaves but barren of fruit, it was growing in the shadow of a temple that looked holy on the outside but produced nothing but exploitation. So what's happening? The fig tree is a living parable. Jesus isn't really mad at the plant. He's pronouncing judgment on a religious system that promises spiritual food but delivers nothing but leaves. All show, no substance. All appearance, zero fruit. But here's what gets to me about this story. Sometimes judgment isn't patient. We love the Jesus who gives second chances, who forgives 70 times 7, who tells parables about waiting another year before cutting down the barren tree. But this Jesus sees fruitlessness and immediately pronounces death. No grace period, no, let's just give it a little more time. Just divine verdict, swift and final. And it worked. The tree never pretended to have fruit again because it was dead. So of course this got me thinking about my own life, specifically before sobriety, how I would maintain appearances while, secretly just dying inside. I'd show up to family dinners while sky high. I'd post motivational quotes while planning my next score. I had all the leaves of a functioning adult with none of the fruit. I was that fig tree, all promise and no delivery. Maybe that's why this story unsettles me so much, because Jesus isn't condemning obvious evil here. He's not cursing a thorn bush or some sort of devastating poison ivy. He's killing something that looks good but produces nothing. He's judging the hypocrite, not the honest sinner, the pretender, not the openly broken. What if Jesus walked up to your life right now, hungry for fruit? What would he find? The leaves of success, the appearance of spirituality, or actual fruit that feeds people? It's a super haunting question. See, this tree didn't know it was about to die. It was just doing what it had always done, growing leaves, looking healthy, existing without purpose. It probably felt like a successful tree right up until Jesus spoke. The religious leaders, they felt the same way. They had their systems, their prosperity, their influence. The temple was magnificent. The ceremonies, they were precise. Everything looked blessed, but Jesus saw death dressed up as life, and he certainly wasn't gentle about exposing it. This story teaches me that sometimes the most loving thing God can do is kill what's pretending to be alive. Sometimes mercy, it looks like judgment, not allowing us to continue faking it. The same voice that cursed the fig tree would cry out, "Father, forgive them," just 5 days later. The very same power that withered those trees' roots would soon restore life to the dead. This isn't contradiction, it's complexity. Jesus can be infinitely patient with honest struggle and also have zero tolerance for religious pretense. He can weep over a city's rejection and curse a tree's fruitlessness. He can flip tables and wash feet. So here's my question, my friend. What needs to die in your life so something real can grow? What fig tree of pretense is taking up space where authentic fruit should actually be? Because the same Jesus who killed the tree, he wants to grow something real in you and in me, something that feeds people with substance, not just with show. Maybe it's time to stop maintaining leaves and start producing fruit, even if that means letting the pretense die first. Hey, my friend, it's Adam with Faith Labs. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, genuinely, thanks so much for hanging out. If you could comment, like, and share, it really does mean the world to me. We're going to do another devotional tomorrow, and I hope to see you there. Until then, onward, and God bless you.